I'm Delia, 32 years old, and work as an art gallery curator in Boston. 8 years of marriage to James, my college sweetheart, had given me everything I thought I wanted. My birthday was supposed to be special, with James promising a surprise that would top all others. My childhood best friend Natalie was in on it too. Little did I know they had a surprise that would shatter my world, then rebuild it stronger. If you're watching this from a place where you've been betrayed too, hit subscribe and let me know where you're tuning in from. This story might just give you the courage you need. Growing up in Boston, I always had a passion for art. I studied art history at university, where I met James during my sophomore year. He was this charming business major with ambitious plans and a smile that made my heart skip. We connected instantly over coffee after he accidentally spilled his latte on my art history textbook. Instead of being angry, I was captivated by his genuine apology and offer to replace it. That chance encounter blossomed into study dates, real dates, and eventually a proposal during our graduation weekend. James became an investment banker while I pursued my dream of working in art galleries. We saved for years to afford our beautiful brownstone in Boston's historic district. The 3-bedroom home with bay windows and a small garden was our pride and joy. We spent weekends restoring original features and making it truly ours. James would joke that my eye for aesthetics made our house the envy of his colleagues. Natalie had been my friend since elementary school. We shared secret codes, teenage crushes, and stood by each other through family problems. She was the obvious choice for maid of honor at our wedding, where she gave a tearful speech about finally seeing me with the man I deserved. James and I both adored her vibrant personality and loyalty. She became a fixture in our married life, coming over for dinner almost every Tuesday night. Being single, Natalie would often joke about finding her own James someday. I remember her saying, "I need someone exactly like James, but maybe with blue eyes instead of brown." We'd laugh, and James would pretend to be offended before suggesting friends he could set her up with. Those evenings became our tradition. James would grill something delicious, I'd make my signature cocktails, and Natalie would bring dessert. After dinner, I'd usually clean up while they chatted in the living room. By our early 30s, both James and I had established successful careers. He had recently been promoted to senior investment advisor, managing portfolios for wealthy clients. I had worked my way up to curator at a respected gallery specializing in emerging American artists. We were financially comfortable and had started seriously discussing having children. James had begun researching the best school districts while I thought about how to balance motherhood with my career. For my 32nd birthday, James promised something extraordinary. "This year will be unforgettable," he said 3 weeks before the date. I noticed he was texting more frequently, often smiling at his phone. When I asked about it, he'd say it was birthday surprise logistics. He was working late more often, claiming a new client needed extra attention. Sometimes he seemed distracted during our conversations, but I attributed it to work stress and birthday planning. Natalie was acting different too. Our weekly dinners became less regular, with her canceling last minute due to work emergencies, despite her flexible job as a freelance graphic designer. When she did come over, she and James seemed to share private jokes. Once I walked in from the kitchen to find them suddenly stopping their conversation. "Just birthday talk," Natalie explained with an overly bright smile. Despite these subtle changes, I never suspected what was coming. James had always been devoted and trustworthy. Natalie had helped me through every life crisis since childhood. The thought of betrayal from either of them, let alone both together, was inconceivable to me. Looking back, I was naive to miss the signs. But that's what trust does. It blinds you to the obvious. The week of my birthday, I was bubbling with excitement. James mentioned he'd taken my actual birthday off work to prepare something special. Natalie was mysteriously unavailable for our pre-birthday lunch, claiming she had a deadline. I spent extra time choosing my birthday outfit, a new navy dress that James had always said would look stunning on me. I even booked an appointment to get my hair done in loose waves, the way he preferred it. "Your birthday will change everything," James said the night before. I had no idea how prophetic those words would be. My birthday morning started with James kissing me on the forehead before sunrise. I need to go pick up some things for today. When you wake up properly, there's a gift certificate for a full spa day on the nightstand. Go pamper yourself while I set everything up. His voice was tight, but I assumed he was just nervous about his surprise. I spent 5 luxurious hours at the spa enjoying a massage, facial manicure, and hairstyling. The staff had been instructed to give me the works and even brought me champagne and chocolate-covered strawberries for lunch. I felt beautiful and loved texting James my gratitude. His reply was brief. Enjoy every minute. Take your time. When I left the spa around 4 p.m., I expected to find messages from friends about a surprise gathering. Instead, my phone was suspiciously quiet. Even Natalie, who never forgot to send birthday wishes, had remained silent all day. I figured everyone was under strict instructions from James not to spoil whatever he had planned. Arriving home, I was confused to find our street oddly empty of extra cars. Our house looked dark from outside. No streamers, no balloons, no sign of a celebration. Maybe it's an intimate dinner before we go out somewhere, I thought, trying to maintain my excitement as I unlocked the door. The house was completely silent. No James, no surprise party guests jumping out, no romantic table set for two. Just emptiness and the faint smell of his cologne lingering in the hallway. I called his name, my voice echoing through our home. I checked every room, increasingly confused. In our bedroom, I noticed his dresser drawers partially open, some clothes missing. His toiletries were gone from the bathroom. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone to call him. Before I could dial, a message appeared. Delia, I don't know how to say this, but I can't be married to you anymore. I've moved some of my things out. I've fallen in love with someone else and I'm leaving. I know this is the worst possible day to tell you, but there's never a good time. I'm sorry. I collapsed onto our bed, the phone falling from my hands. This had to be a mistake, a cruel birthday joke. I called him immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried again and again with the same result. In desperation, I called my sister Catherine, who answered on the first ring. Delia, happy birth, she began cheerfully. James left me, I interrupted, my voice breaking. He sent a text saying he's in love with someone else. The shocked silence on the other end confirmed this wasn't some elaborate prank. As Catherine promised to come right over, I tried calling Natalie, needing my best friend more than ever. No answer. I texted her, emergency, James left me. Please come over. While waiting for Catherine, I scrolled through social media looking for clues. That's when I saw it. A photo posted just an hour earlier by a mutual friend. James and Natalie at a restaurant, his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder. The caption read, Love happens in unexpected ways. So happy for these two finally admitting their feelings. The room spun around me. Comments under the photo revealed that several of our friends knew about their relationship. Some expressed discomfort about the situation, but many offered congratulations. As I stared at the image, another message arrived, this time from Natalie. I'm sorry you found out this way. James wanted to tell you in person, but I knew that would be too cruel. We've been fighting our feelings for months, but we can't help who we love. I never meant to hurt you, but what James and I have is real. I hope someday you'll understand. Physical pain shot through my chest. I couldn't breathe. The betrayal was so complete. My husband and best friend, the two people I trusted most in the world, had conspired to deceive me. They had likely been laughing at me during those dinner nights, exchanging glances while I innocently cleaned dishes. How many times had they been together while James claimed to work late? How many of Natalie's work emergencies were actually dates with my husband? When Catherine arrived, she found me curled in a fetal position on the bathroom floor, surrounded by broken glass from a picture frame I'd thrown against the wall, our wedding photo. She helped me to the couch and poured me a glass of the expensive wine James had bought supposedly for my birthday celebration. Did you know? I asked her, my voice hollow. No, Delia. I swear I had no idea. Catherine answered, her face pale with shock. No one who actually loves you could have known and stayed silent. As the night progressed, more details emerged through texts from mutual friends who felt guilty for keeping secrets. James and Natalie had been involved for at least 3 months. They had been seen together around town. Some friends thought I was aware and had agreed to some modern arrangement. Others assumed we were already separated. The humiliation burned as deep as the betrayal. My birthday night, which should have been filled with celebration, instead became a blur of tears, wine, and unanswered questions. The cake I'd bought for the office celebration the next day sat untouched in the refrigerator. The new dress I'd worn hung crumpled on the bathroom floor. The life I thought I had dissolved in a single text message. Around midnight, James called. Catherine answered and put it on speaker. "Is she okay?" he had the audacity to ask. "How do you think she is?" Catherine snapped. "You left her on her birthday for her best friend." "It wasn't supposed to happen this way," he said, his voice frustratingly calm. "The timing got messed up. Tell her I'll come get the rest of my things next week when she's at work." Catherine told him exactly where he could go before hanging up. I stared at the ceiling, numb and empty, wondering how the day that began with such promise could end with me feeling so completely abandoned. The week after my birthday passed in a blur of tissues, uneaten food, and sleepless nights. I called in sick to the gallery, unable to face colleagues who would inevitably ask about my birthday celebration. My boss, Barbara, was understanding after Catherine explained the situation. "Take whatever time you need," she said, her voice gentle with concern. I couldn't eat. The thought of food made me nauseous. I couldn't sleep either, my mind replaying memories, looking for missed clues. When exhaustion finally pulled me under, nightmares of James and Natalie laughing at me would jolt me awake. I lost 7 pounds in that first week, my clothes hanging loose on my frame. My phone became both torture device and lifeline. I'd stare at it, hoping for James to text saying it was all a mistake, then feel sick for still wanting him after what he'd done. Natalie, however, couldn't stay silent. Her messages ranged from defensive justifications to angry accusations. "We never meant for this to happen," one text read. "You have to believe that." The next day, "James was unhappy for a long time. You were too focused on your career to notice. Then, if you were a real friend, you'd want us to be happy." Each message was another knife twist. I eventually blocked her number, unable to bear her attempts to rewrite our history to justify her betrayal. 4 days after my birthday, Catherine took me to her house. "James is coming to get more of his things," she explained. "You shouldn't be there." While I hid at my sister's apartment, James packed up half our shared life. He took the television we'd bought together, his favorite armchair, and all his clothes. He left the wedding album on the bed with a note. "I thought you might want to keep this." Catherine found me staring at it when she brought me home, too numb even to cry. Through mutual friends, I learned more painful details. The affair had indeed started during our Tuesday dinner nights. While I cleaned up in the kitchen, James and Natalie had started their emotional affair in whispered conversations. A friendly hug goodbye had turned into a kiss one night when I was putting leftovers away. That kiss led to secret meetings, hotel rooms, and elaborate lies. Depression settled over me like a heavy blanket. I stopped answering calls from anyone but Catherine. I couldn't bear the pity, the awkward conversations, the inevitable questions. Social media became unbearable after seeing a photo of James and Natalie at a restaurant we used to frequent. I deactivated all my accounts, cutting myself off further. Barbara from the gallery came to check on me after 2 weeks of absence. She sat on my couch, concerned by my unwashed hair and hollow eyes. "The gallery needs you, Delia," she said. "Art heals. Maybe it can heal you too." I promised to try coming back the following week, though the thought of facing the world felt impossible. My first attempt at therapy was a disaster. The counselor Catherine arranged asked about my feelings, and I couldn't stop sobbing long enough to speak. After 30 minutes of handed tissues and gentle prompting, I left feeling more broken than when I arrived. The ultimate blow came 3 weeks after my birthday. James and Natalie made their relationship official on social media with professional photos and a statement about finding unexpected love and starting a new chapter. They looked radiant together, posing in front of the Boston skyline. The post received hundreds of likes and supportive comments, including from people who had attended our wedding. Our social circle fractured in the aftermath. Some friends tried to remain neutral, an impossible position that usually resulted in them drifting toward James and Natalie. Others took sides firmly, either disgusted by the betrayal or accepting their narrative of unstoppable love. My closest friend after Natalie, a woman named Rachel, admitted she'd known about the affair for weeks but didn't know how to tell me. "I was afraid you'd shoot the messenger," she explained over coffee. "James said he was going to tell you after your birthday. So you let me walk around like a fool while everyone knew my husband was sleeping with my best friend." I asked, my voice cracking. Rachel couldn't meet my eyes. She stopped inviting me to group gatherings after that, completing my isolation. Exactly 1 month after my birthday, I hit rock bottom. Alone in our house, which still held too many memories of James, I found myself staring at his number on my phone screen. My finger hovered over the call button as I considered begging him to come back to choose me over Natalie, to give our marriage another chance. I had built my entire adult life around him. The thought of starting over at 32 terrified me more than the thought of forgiving the unforgivable. My thumb was a millimeter from the screen when I caught my reflection in the darkened window. Hollow-eyed, unwashed hair, wearing his old college sweatshirt for comfort. I barely recognized myself. Was this who I wanted to be? Someone so desperate for a man that I would welcome back someone who discarded me so cruelly, who betrayed me with my best friend, who couldn't even tell me to my face that our marriage was over. I put the phone down, hands shaking. That moment, choosing not to call, was the first step towards saving myself. The next morning, I dragged myself to a coffee shop near our house. My first voluntary public appearance since the betrayal. Hiding behind sunglasses and a baseball cap, I ordered the largest coffee available and tucked myself into a corner table. I was scrolling mindlessly through news headlines when someone called my name. Delia Harrison. I looked up to see Professor Clark, my favorite art history teacher from college. She had championed my senior thesis and written recommendations for my first gallery jobs. Her silver hair was shorter than I remembered, but her kind eyes hadn't changed. "I almost didn't recognize you," she said, gesturing to the empty chair. "May I?" I nodded, self-conscious about my appearance, but grateful for a friendly face unconnected to my current drama. "You look like you're going through something," she said directly after settling with her tea. "Want to talk about it?" Maybe it was her familiar presence or just the desperate need to connect with someone who knew me before James. But I found myself telling her everything. The betrayal, the depression, the isolation. I expected pity, but instead received wisdom. 10 years ago, my partner of 20 years left me for a colleague, she said, surprising me. I thought my life was over. I was 57 and suddenly alone. "What did you do?" I asked, leaning forward. "First I cried. A lot. Then I got angry. Then I cut my hair, sold our house, and took a sabbatical in Italy." She smiled. "Best decision I ever made. I discovered I wasn't just Professor Clark's devoted partner. I was Elaine with my own passions and strengths." "But how did you start?" I asked, the enormity of rebuilding my life overwhelming me. "Small steps," she replied. "Your life isn't over, Delia. It's just beginning differently." Those words resonated deep within me. Beginning differently. Not ending. Beginning. I left the coffee shop with Professor Clark's number and a tiny spark of possibility. The next day, I made my first small change. I went to a salon and asked them to cut off my long brown hair that James had loved and dye what remained a rich auburn. Looking at my reflection, sharp bob, vibrant color, I felt the first stirring of reclaiming myself. The following week, I returned to work. Barbara welcomed me warmly and suggested I join an art therapy group the gallery was hosting for trauma survivors. "You have a unique perspective now," she said. "Pain can deepen your understanding of emotional art." The group met in the gallery's back room every Thursday evening. During the first session, I sat silently watching others transform feelings into colors and shapes. A woman named Samantha noticed my hesitation and shared her brushes. "No pressure," she said. Sometimes watching is part of healing too. By the third session, I was painting bold red and black strokes that gradually gave way to purple and blue. Samantha, a divorce lawyer, who'd survived her own painful breakup years before, became the friend I needed. Supportive without pity, honest without cruelty. With each small step, I felt myself growing stronger. I called a real estate agent and listed the brownstone. Too many ghosts, I explained when Catherine questioned the decision. I found a modern loft downtown with concrete floors, huge windows, and not a single memory of James. It cost more, but my gallery salary could cover it, especially after Barbara offered me a promotion. "We need a senior curator who understands emotional resonance in art," she explained. "Your perspective since returning has been extraordinary. Several collectors have commented on your more powerful selections." The promotion came with a substantial raise and creative control over an upcoming exhibition. I threw myself into creating a show titled Transformation, featuring artists who had reinvented themselves through crisis. The work consumed me in the best possible way, giving purpose to my days and exhausting me enough to sleep at night. My physical transformation continued alongside the professional one. The weight I'd lost through depression became intentional as I joined a boxing gym. "Punching things helps," Samantha advised, and she was right. Each jab at the heavy bag felt like hitting back at betrayal. I replaced clothes James had bought me with styles I'd always admired, but had been too conservative to try. Bold patterns, dramatic silhouettes, bright colors. A local magazine profiled the upcoming Transformation exhibition, including my story of curating through personal crisis without specific details. The writer described me as having a fresh perspective on emotional art that resonates with authenticity. When the magazine hit stands with my photo, new hair, confident smile standing amid powerful artwork, I bought 10 copies. As I settled into my new apartment and identity, I began declining calls from mutual friends who had initially sided with James and Natalie, but now wanted to reconnect. "I'm prioritizing people who prioritized me when it mattered," I explained to one particularly persistent former friend. The boundary setting felt empowering. Therapy became productive once I found a counselor specializing in betrayal trauma. Dr. Martinez helped me understand that James and Natalie's choices reflected their character flaws, not my worthiness. "You didn't cause this, you couldn't control it, and you can't cure them," she repeated until I began to believe it. Small daily rituals anchored my new life. Morning coffee on my balcony overlooking the city. Evening walks through the arts district. Saturday visits to new galleries. Cooking classes where I learned to make meals for one that felt like self-care rather than loneliness. One evening arranging art books on my new shelves, I realized I'd gone an entire day without thinking about James. The recognition startled me into sitting down, emotions swirling. Not because I missed him, but because I recognized how much I'd been living in his shadow. His career had always taken precedence. His schedule determined ours. His preferences influenced our home, our friends, our plans. Without him, I was making choices based solely on my own desires. The freedom was terrifying and exhilarating. That night in my new bed with city lights twinkling through floor-to-ceiling windows and no memories haunting the space, I felt something I hadn't expected to feel again so soon. Contentment. Not complete happiness, not yet, but a quiet satisfaction with the life I was building. For the first time since my birthday, I fell asleep smiling. Exactly 1 month after the betrayal, I barely resembled the woman James had left. My hair was now a rich auburn in a sleek angled bob that framed my face. Regular boxing sessions had toned my arms and boosted my confidence. My wardrobe had evolved from safe, neutral pieces James approved of to bold colors and statement accessories that expressed my personality. My promotion to senior curator came with an office overlooking the gallery's main exhibition space. The salary increase, 15% plus bonuses based on sales, allowed me financial independence I hadn't expected after losing James's income contribution. I opened a separate bank account, removing my funds from our joint account and leaving James to figure out the shared bills for the house that hadn't yet sold. Dating wasn't on my priority list, but I accepted occasional dinner invitations without expectations. A gallery owner from New York took me to an exclusive restaurant where we discussed art movements rather than my personal life. A fellow curator brought me to a jazz club where we danced without the awkward questions about my past. These weren't romantic connections, but they showed me I could enjoy male company without commitment or baggage. My social circle transformed completely. Instead of couples friends who had known us as James and Delia, I cultivated relationships with people who knew only me. Samantha introduced me to her diverse friend group, artists, professionals, academics, who accepted me without preconceptions. Weekend brunches, gallery openings, and impromptu dinner gatherings replaced the structured socializing of my married life. "You seem happier than I've seen you in years," Catherine remarked during one such gathering. "More yourself." I realized she was right. The constant effort of being James's perfect wife, maintaining our showcase home, entertaining his colleagues, supporting his ambitions, had diminished parts of myself I was now reclaiming. A weekend trip to New York with gallery colleagues energized me further. We visited exclusive exhibitions, met influential artists, and discussed bringing their work to Boston. My opinion was valued, my expertise acknowledged, without being filtered through James's perspective. I returned with 3 new artists committed to our gallery and a heightened confidence in my professional judgment. Barbara tasked me with overseeing the gallery's expansion to a second location. "Your aesthetic understanding and business sense make you perfect for this project," she explained. The responsibility should have been overwhelming, but instead felt like the perfect challenge for my renewed energy. During this period, an anonymous collector began purchasing pieces I specifically curated. "They've asked about your selection process," Barbara mentioned. "They seem particularly drawn to works you've chosen." The mystery patron became a game among staff. Was it a celebrity? A reclusive millionaire? Their consistent interest validated my artistic instincts. With my newfound independence, I rediscovered passions James had subtly discouraged. Photography had been my hobby before college, abandoned when James called it an expensive distraction from your real career. I purchased a professional camera and enrolled in weekend workshops, finding joy in capturing urban landscapes and architectural details. "You have a natural eye for composition," the instructor commented, suggesting I exhibit my work. The thought of being on both sides of the gallery wall intrigued me. My social media presence, previously limited to occasional gallery promotions, evolved into a curated showcase of art, fashion, and Boston culture. I never mentioned James or the betrayal directly, but the transformation was evident in every image. Followers multiplied. As I shared exhibition highlights, studio visits with artists, and glimpses of my redesigned living space. Comments praised my renaissance and inspiring reinvention. Catherine visited my loft for dinner 6 weeks after I moved in, bringing wine and curiosity. "This place is so you," she marveled, taking in the open concept design, minimal furniture, and walls covered with emerging artists' work. "I never realized how much your style disappeared in that house with James." "Neither did I admitted, serving the Thai food I loved, but James had always claimed was too spicy. As we enjoyed dinner on my balcony, Catherine hesitated before asking, "Have you heard anything from him lately?" "Not directly," I answered truthfully. "I've blocked both their numbers and emails." Catherine looked uncomfortable. "Samantha showed me something today," she said, reaching for her phone. "I thought you should see it." The photo showed James at a restaurant looking disheveled and miserable, Natalie nowhere in sight. Catherine explained that mutual friends had reported trouble in paradise. Apparently, the excitement of forbidden love had faded once they faced real-life challenges. Natalie had expected James to maintain the lifestyle he'd had with me, not understanding that his income alone couldn't support the brownstone mortgage and his lavish spending habits. "She's been complaining to anyone who'll listen that he's not the man she thought," Catherine reported with undisguised satisfaction. "And he's realizing that her spontaneous, carefree personality is less charming when it extends to bill-paying and adult responsibilities." I surprised myself by feeling nothing but mild curiosity at their troubles. No satisfaction, no pain, no longing, just detachment, as if hearing about strangers. I was discussing my upcoming photography exhibition when my phone chimed with a text from an unsaved number. I would have ignored it, but Catherine glanced down and gasped. "It's from James," she said. The message was simple. "Can we talk?" I put the phone down without responding and continued our conversation about exposure techniques. Catherine stared at me with newfound respect. The woman I had been a month ago would have jumped at his outreach. The woman I was becoming recognized it for what it was: too little too late. As days passed, James's messages grew increasingly frequent and desperate. At first they came as casual check-ins, "Just wondering how you're doing," and "Hope you're well." When those received no response, the tone changed to nostalgia. "Remember that weekend in Cape Cod? I was thinking about it today." Finally, he resorted to outright revelations. "Natalie left me," one text confessed. "She said I'm not what she expected." Another admitted, "I made the biggest mistake of my life. I threw away everything good for something that wasn't real." I read each message with detached curiosity, sharing them with Dr. Martinez during therapy sessions. "His regret isn't about hurting you," she observed. "It's about consequences for himself." Through mutual connections, I learned the full story. Natalie, who had always lived spontaneously, had chafed under the reality of James's structured lifestyle and financial expectations. The adventure of an affair was exciting. The mundane reality of relationship compromises was not. She'd left him for a wealthier tech entrepreneur who promised exotic vacations and fewer responsibilities. James, suddenly alone and facing the brownstone mortgage without my income contribution, was struggling financially and socially. Many friends who had initially supported them pulled back after Natalie's quick departure, revealed the affair as lust rather than love. His carefully constructed image as a successful, honorable man had crumbled. 3 days after his first text, my gallery phone rang with his number. I let it go to voicemail. He called again the next day and the next, leaving increasingly urgent messages. I saved them without listening, focusing instead on finalizing selections for my exhibition and signing the contract for my photography classes. Catherine kept me updated on the gossip. "He's been asking everyone where you're living now," she reported. "Nobody who knows is telling him." I had just finished installing the centerpiece of my transformation exhibition when Barbara approached with a concerned expression. "There's a man insisting on seeing you," she said quietly. "He says he's your husband. He seems agitated. Security is with him in the lobby." My heart raced momentarily before steadying. "I'll handle it," I assured her, straightening my emerald green blazer, a color James had always claimed washed me out, but had become my signature shade. James stood in the lobby looking nothing like the polished investment banker I'd married. His usually immaculate hair needed cutting, his expensive shirt was wrinkled, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. When he saw me, relief washed over his face, followed quickly by shock at my transformed appearance. "Delia," he breathed, stepping forward. "Finally." I maintained a professional distance, nodding to the security guard that I was fine. "This isn't appropriate, James. I'm working." "You wouldn't answer my calls or texts," he said, voice rising. "You moved without telling me. You've blocked everyone. What choice did I have?" "You had the choice not to betray me with my best friend," I replied evenly. "You made your decision on my birthday. I'm making mine now." His face crumpled. "I made a terrible mistake. Natalie wasn't who I thought she was. She left me for someone with more money." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, meaning it. Despite everything, seeing him in pain brought no satisfaction. "Can we talk somewhere private?" he pleaded. "Just for a few minutes. I need to explain." Against my better judgment, I led him to a small conference room, leaving the door partially open. Professional boundaries felt essential to maintaining my composure. James collapsed into a chair, his carefully constructed facade crumbling completely. "Everything's fallen apart," he confessed. "Natalie left 2 weeks ago. She said I was too controlling, too focused on appearances." He laughed bitterly. "She said I wasn't spontaneous enough, after she convinced me to blow up my marriage for spontaneity." Why are you here, James? I asked, checking my watch. The exhibition opening was in 3 hours, and I had no time for his crisis. I made a horrible mistake, he said, looking up with reddened eyes. I threw away 8 years with someone who actually loved me for an illusion. Natalie was exciting because she was forbidden different, but she never understood me like you do. I corrected. Like I did. He leaned forward earnestly. Delia, we can fix this. The house hasn't sold yet. We could move back in, start fresh. I'll go to counseling. I'll do whatever it takes. The life we had is gone, I said firmly. I've moved on. He looked around wildly as if noticing my appearance fully for the first time. The hair, the confident posture, the success evident in my position. You seem so different. I am different. But we were happy, he insisted. Before I messed everything up, we were good together. Remember our plans? The family we wanted to start, the summer house on the coast. We can have all that again. Why would I want that again? I asked honestly. A life where my best friend and husband could betray me so completely. Where apparently everyone knew but me. That's not a life I'm interested in rebuilding. His expression darkened slightly. You're being cold, Delia. I understand you're hurt, but I'm trying to make amends. The least you could do is hear me out properly. He reached for my hand across the table. Remember our wedding vows, for better or worse. This was the worst I know, but we can get through it. I moved my hand away, anger finally breaking through my composed exterior. Our vows also included faithfulness and honesty. You broke those on my birthday with my best friend. You didn't even have the courage to tell me to my face. Natalie pushed me to do it that way, he argued, deflecting blame. She said a clean break would be kinder. I wanted to wait until after your birthday, but she said that would be worse. So now this is Natalie's fault. I stood up. This conversation is over. Please don't come to my workplace again. As I turned to leave, James stood quickly and grabbed my wrist. Delia, wait. His voice softened to the tone he used when trying to convince me of something. Look, I know you've been through a lot. You're angry and that's making you cold right now. But I know the real you. Sweet, forgiving Delia who doesn't hold grudges. I looked pointedly at his hand until he released me. You don't know me at all anymore. And from what I'm seeing, you never really did. Desperation flashed across his face. He stepped forward, arms outstretched for an embrace. Delia, please. I love you. I never stopped loving you. Natalie was a mistake. I stepped back. No. That single word, firm, clear, unapologetic, seemed to break something in him. His face contorted with a flash of the same anger I'd occasionally glimpsed during our marriage when things didn't go his way. You know what, fine? I came here trying to be decent, offering you a chance to salvage our marriage, and you're acting like you're better than me. His voice rose. You've got a fancy new job and haircut, and suddenly you're too good for forgiveness. I'm still your husband, Delia. Legally, that house is half mine, and so is everything else we built. I maintained eye contact, my voice steady. You're right about one thing. Legally, you are still my husband. That's being remedied as we speak. My lawyer filed divorce papers last week. You should be receiving them tomorrow. The shock on his face would have been satisfying if I felt anything beyond tired determination to end this conversation. Divorce already. Don't you think that's extreme? We should at least try counseling first. There's nothing to try for James. You and Natalie killed what we had. I've moved on. I suggest you do the same. Security appeared in the doorway, summoned by a colleague who had heard James's raised voice. Everything okay here, Ms. Harrison? Mr. Harrison was just leaving, I replied calmly. James looked from me to the security guard, the reality of his situation finally sinking in. He straightened his wrinkled jacket, attempting to regain some dignity. This isn't like you, Delia, he said quietly. You're not this cold person. You don't get to decide who I am anymore, I replied. Goodbye, James. I watched through the gallery windows as he walked to his car, shoulders slumped in defeat. The man who had once been the center of my world now looked small against the Boston skyline, diminished not by my success but by his own choices. Turning back to my exhibition, I felt a weight lift. In trying to destroy me, James and Natalie had inadvertently set me free. 6 months after my birthday betrayal, I stood in the center of a crowded gallery, champagne flute in hand, surrounded by the tangible evidence of my transformation. The Rebirth exhibition, renamed from Transformation to better capture its essence, had opened to critical acclaim and record attendance. Art critics praised the raw emotional intelligence of the curation, unaware that each selected piece reflected a stage of my personal journey. The divorce had been finalized with surprising efficiency. James, perhaps hoping to preserve what remained of his reputation, had not contested my terms. The brownstone finally sold, the proceeds divided according to our agreement. That chapter of my life was officially closed, documented in court papers and bank transactions. My professional success had exceeded all expectations. The mysterious anonymous collector who had purchased pieces from my exhibitions finally revealed himself. Renowned artist Marcus Winters, whose work I had admired for years. He approached me at the opening, introducing himself with genuine admiration. "Your selection process intrigues me," he said, his silver hair and piercing eyes intimidating until he smiled warmly. "You find pieces that speak to transformation and resilience in ways other curators miss." That conversation led to Marcus offering to mentor me, an opportunity that would have seemed impossible a year earlier. Under his guidance, I began developing a distinctive curatorial philosophy that brought national attention to our gallery. Barbara partnered with me on the second location, making me partial owner rather than just senior curator. Personal growth matched professional success. My photography hobby evolved into a serious creative outlet, with 3 of my urban landscape pieces selected for a local exhibition. The photography instructor who had encouraged me became more than a teacher. David, with his patient demeanor and artistic eye, began as a professional connection who appreciated my perspective on art. Our first non-class meeting, coffee to discuss composition techniques, evolved into dinner, then weekend photography excursions to coastal towns. "You see things others miss," he commented during one such trip, watching me photograph a weathered dock at sunset. "Beauty in broken things." Unlike my rushed relationship with James, this connection developed slowly, built on mutual respect and shared passion rather than romantic intensity. David knew my history and never pushed for more than I was ready to give. His gentle support and creative enthusiasm complemented my rebuilding process without dominating it. Catherine marveled at my continued evolution. "You're glowing," she observed over lunch at a rooftop restaurant I would never have chosen during my marriage. "Not just looking better, you seem lit from within." "I feel like myself for the first time in years," I admitted. "Maybe for the first time ever." The healing wasn't always linear. Some days still brought waves of grief, not for James specifically, but for the years invested and the future I had planned. Dr. Martinez helped me recognize these moments as necessary parts of recovery rather than setbacks. "You're mourning a vision of life, not the actual marriage you had," she explained. "That's healthy and appropriate." Natalie attempted reconciliation 3 months after leaving James. Her message arrived on a day I was preparing for an important gallery opening. "I miss your friendship. What happened with James was complicated. Can we talk?" The Delia from before would have struggled with this request, torn between loneliness and principle. The woman I had become responded with calm boundaries. "I wish you well, Natalie, but that bridge is permanently burned. Please don't contact me again." Her subsequent messages went unanswered and eventually stopped. According to mutual friends, she had moved to California with her tech entrepreneur, apparently happy in her new life. I felt nothing but distant hope that she had found whatever she was looking for. James made one final attempt at connection when he came to return the last of my possessions, books and family photos he'd accidentally packed. We met at a neutral coffee shop, the meeting lasting less than 15 minutes. "You look good," he said, taking in my confident posture and successful aura. "Really good." "Thank you," I replied, simply accepting the box without elaboration. He hesitated before leaving. "For what it's worth, I know now what I threw away. You're remarkable, Delia. I completely misjudged your strength. I nodded, acknowledging his words without needing them for validation. Goodbye, James. I wish you healing. Walking away from that final meeting, I realized the betrayal had ultimately been a gift. Painful beyond measure, but transformative in ways comfort never could have been. The life James and Natalie tried to destroy had been replaced by something more authentic and fulfilling. Dr. Martinez had once asked what I had learned from the experience. After reflection, my answer surprised even me. I learned that sometimes people can take everything you thought defined you, and you discover you're still completely yourself, maybe even more so without their limitations. My 33rd birthday approached with none of the dread I had expected. Instead of painful reminders, I planned new traditions: a gallery event featuring emerging female artists, followed by dinner with my closest new friends. The date that had once marked destruction now symbolized rebirth. Samantha suggested a toast at the pre-birthday dinner she organized. To Delia, who turned betrayal into brilliance. David, now a steady presence in my life, added his own to seeing beauty in unexpected places. As glasses clinked around the table, I looked at these authentic connections that had replaced the superficial relationships of my previous life. The pain that had nearly destroyed me had instead revealed my true strength. The betrayal that was meant to diminish me had ultimately expanded my world beyond anything I could have imagined in my safe, comfortable marriage. My therapist once asked if I had forgiven James and Natalie. The question required serious reflection. I've forgiven them in the sense that I no longer carry anger or desire for revenge, I finally answered. But forgiveness doesn't mean allowing toxic people back into your life. It means freeing yourself from the burden of hatred without obligating yourself to reconciliation. That freedom became my greatest accomplishment. Not the successful career, not the new relationship, not the beautiful living space, but the internal peace that came from rebuilding myself according to my own design rather than someone else's expectations. So if you're watching this from a place of betrayal or loss, know that the story doesn't end where you think it does. The chapter that seems to be destroying you might actually be setting you free. Sometimes the worst betrayal leads to the best version of yourself. Have you experienced something that initially seemed devastating but ultimately led to growth? Share your story in the comments below. Like and subscribe if this resonated with you, and remember, the end of one story is just the beginning of a better one. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you strength for yours.